But it's really about how is the other side connected to here? How is heaven not just a beautiful place to aspire to when we all die? How is heaven helping us today? And how, by aligning with those heavenly vibrations now, you're accelerating your own evolution and you're unfolding your own potential. That's what really the book is about. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I was kind of reading it, and it was so fascinating to kind of. It's almost like I was like watching this and listening to this and reading this like through Barbara's eyes, and you're kind of seeing what was happening on the other side. Because there's so much, there is so much information out there about the other side. But this way, for me, it really gave me a sense like, okay, this is like very kind of chronological. These are the different layers. It kind of really made sense. It wasn't too fluffy, and it wasn't like too super woo woo that it didn't like kind of go, because sometimes I've read other books. It just seems like way out there. And I thought to myself, and I
saw God and I was,
And, so, I mean, and then the idea, the concept of heaven, obviously I think if you're Greek, you're probably raised Christian, right? That's correct.
I was actually born in Orthodox. Yeah, Greek Orthodox. You're right.
So, and then I'm a Catholic myself. So the concept of heaven, and the idea is that, as we learn through our religious, ideas, is that once we die, we go to heaven, depending on if you're a good person or not.
Right.
But then the whole idea about, no, not necessarily. We actually grow to heaven, and then the levels of it. And then, be honest with you, I was reading this and I'm like, damn, this is really exhausting. I thought this life was as bad enough as it is, but then on the other side, there's a lot of stuff going on the other side, and it's not just like, hey, I'm just going to take this evolutionary kind of step up this spiritual way, and bam, there I am. No, there's work on the other side.
Oh yeah. Oh no, you continue into things you like. Like, for example, if you love to sing, but let's say in this lifetime it didn't work out. You were a family man, you had to raise kids, and maybe you got a really good job, but it wasn't in singing, but your heart always said, God, do I really want to do this? You'll get to do that on the other side. The talents, the abilities, all of that continue. But your note on, it's exhausting. One of the challenges of the book was to tell the story of evolution, you can't focus on one thing. You have to bring several pieces together. And one piece, when we think of growing to heaven, is the idea of reincarnation.
Yeah.
That you're not going to do it all in a single life. And when Henry Ford adopted the theory of reincarnation, the famous Henry Ford, he said, if you take this down, write it to put people's minds at ease, that now you have time to create. You can't, if you feel like you have to do everything in a life, Max Heindel, the Rosicrucian, put it beautifully, said, to think that your behavior in this tiny fraction of time could determine all of eternity for you is an awful lot of pressure, to put on.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, because, but I think that's one of the problems we're facing as humanity. I think that is a quintessential, like, we're just so much pressure to maximize every little second. And if you're not doing that, you're failing. You're a complete washout, everything else like that. And I'm really glad you said that, because I think a lot of people who are listening to this, who are on this spiritual path, are trying to become this, more spiritual, trying to have a 9-to-5 job, trying to have kids, trying to do this. And like you said, it's almost more exhausting sometimes here too, as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you now, the idea is you see all of it as part of the whole, right? So what we say is this, okay, the journey to heaven is many incarnations. You grow to heaven. It's like each lifetime is like a grade in school. You would not ask a first grader, even if they're the best first grader there, oh, you've got to be ready for your PhD now, right? You wouldn't put that pressure on that little kid, right? Yeah. But you would say, hopefully you're going to do a great job in second grade, right? So we're not expected to be perfect in this life. That's we're on the road to perfection, but what we are expected to do is what we call reach your own potential. So if the journey to heaven is, here to here, and these are the many lifetimes to get there, well, what about this segment of life? What am I supposed to accomplish spiritually in this life that will lead to that greater glory? We call that your spiritual potential. So you, me, everybody listening, We have an individual potential, and mine may be different than yours. It's not necessarily the same potential, but we have to reach it. And that's another big theme of the book. If you've had your spiritual awakening, I mentioned most of the people watching your podcast is, doing this, it means it's time to take that spiritual yoke of light and climb the ladder. It's the divine's knocking on your door. They're saying, this is the lifetime where you have to put more attention to this, because you have more opportunity to what we would call accelerate the growth. Again, Max Heindel said it so beautifully. He said there's this spiral, gradual path of evolution that all of us are on, but sometimes we have incarnations we're supposed to take the straight and narrow, the path of initiation. It's a much steeper path, but it's also much quicker. And we have incarnations when we do both. And this is an opportunity for many of us to take more of that straight and narrow and really, really, get a lot accomplished in this incarnation, but not at the expense of everything. It's all kind of, part of the whole.
Part of the whole. So it's not so individualized. I mean, so focusized in some ways. It's really about finding that. So how do we find our spiritual potential? A lot of people are listening to the show and they're looking for guidance and stuff like that. And how do we find our spiritual potential? How do we know if we're even connected to our spiritual potential at this moment?
Well, that's a great question. So I can give a few guidelines, because that's, so once we cover, as you know, in the book, all the levels and all this and that, then you say, well, okay, what about me? Where am I? So the first thing to realize, let's say, is right now, where you are this minute, where I am this minute, we have this beautiful auric field. We have this spiritual power, and this power does come through in different colors and hues and all of that. Everything you're thinking, feeling, doing is radiating energy in your aura right now, but it's also the fuel of your spiritual ascent. The more spiritual power you have, the higher in consciousness you climb. These realms on the other side are not just places to visit, they're states of consciousness. So right now, we're all vibrating at a level corresponding to one of those levels. So if I died today, I take the light I have today, not yesterday or tomorrow, and that would determine where I end up on the other side. It's not reward or punishment. It's like attracting like. So the first thing we have to think is, how can I earn light? It's more important than money. It's more important than fame and fortune, all that stuff, because we're not going to take that with us, but we are going to take our light. So what can I do to earn light? Well, the obvious one we've all been doing from the beginning of time, and as Barbara would say it in her expression, every good word, thought, act, deed is building power. So do good. Do the right thing in life.